Hey everyone, today I am going to be reviewing the pattern I used to make this bomber jacket, NewLook 6545. Okay, the pattern I used was NewLook 6545. This is the display packet, so they always change the numbers for the display, which is kind of irritating. It'd be nice if they kind of just like in parentheses put the real pattern number below. But oh well. Okay, so the fabric I used for this was from Minerva Crafts. They gave it to me in exchange for a blog post, and that blog post is forthcoming, so I'll be sure to link it below once it goes live. It is a coated scuba knit. It doesn't feel like a scuba, but it's probably because it's coated. And let me hold up my leftovers. It kind of has a distressed look to it. Kind of zebra-y, maybe, zebra-like, distressed, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's really, really cool. It has a sort of leather vibe, a leather look, and I really like that. I just think this jacket looks cool. For the lining, I used a poly satin. And I got this at a local fabric store that has gone out of business. But it's actually surprisingly easy to work with. And I really like the shine it gives to the inside of the jacket. The cuff and band materials and collar material, I use this, and this is from Joann's. I think it's polyester. And it's really sort of lightweight. Now, typically for bomber jackets, you want to use something heavier weight, but I liked the dressy sort of feel and look that fabric gave, so I chose to use it. I think it doesn't matter so much here in the cuffs and the hem band, but in the collar, it would have been nice maybe to have something a little bit more heavy, though I probably could just have interfaced this and that would have been okay. But overall, I think it looks fine, so I'm not worried about it. Size-wise, I cut a size 12, and I think it's fine. The only thing I had to alter is the zipper, and I had to just kind of shorten it, and I did that. I used a 22-inch zipper. That's what the pattern calls for, so just be aware of that. And then I did notice, though, once I finished the sleeves, that they kind of ride up a little bit. So if I make this pattern again, I will lengthen the sleeve an inch. But it's not too bad, so that's fine. Here's the back. I'll put some pictures in too. And we've got pockets, of course. We've got satin pockets. Woohoo! Okay, for the pattern instructions, I think overall for a commercial pattern, not to keep bashing them, they did pretty well. There was a couple of spots, actually really one spot that was really tricky, but you know, instructions are sometimes hard to write, and that's okay. So I did film that tricky part, which is step 18, and that is attaching the sleeve lining to the cuffs. So that is just, you know, reading it and the diagram. It doesn't really sink in right away what they mean. So I thought if I filmed that would be helpful. Now I didn't film a sew along for this because I've never made a bomber jacket before. So I really wanted to figure it out, iron out the kinks, and if that's something you're interested in, I'd be willing to make another jacket. I actually really love these, and I'd like to try a different company pattern. So if you have a favorite bomber jacket pattern, please let me know. I would like to try it out. The other thing I thought that was kind of tricky is they don't really mention, they mention putting the lining pieces together at step 14, but they give it one sentence. It says, stitch, gather, and pull up gathering stitches on jacket lining sections in the same manner as the jacket. Usually I'm used to instructions giving, you know, lining pieces a little bit more attention. Not that it's needed, but I don't know. For some reason, I just thought that was kind of strange. It was kind of like just stuck in there. I don't know. I'm probably just being nitpicky. The other thing I did notice is that the pattern asks you to gather the main fabric and it asks you to do it on, so at the hem here, and then at the end of the sleeve. So when you're doing that, there isn't a lot of gathering required. You just have to make it, the fabric kind of ripply. You know what I'm talking about? Don't like pull it and make it tight. You just need like little ripples. It's kind of almost like you're easing it in, but it's just slightly more than easing. I used my my gathering foot on my machine, and just on a basting stitch, and just put it in. I didn't change any of the tension or put my finger behind the foot. Let it go, made nice ripples, and that was plenty. I didn't need to adjust the stitches. But I just wanted to point it out. When it tells you to gather, you don't need to gather that much. You just need to put some ripples in there, and it's going to fit fine. But otherwise, I think that's all I have to say. Oh yeah, one other point. When you're leaving that opening in, and I still have my opening, I have to slip stitch it. So this is how you're able to sew everything nice and neat, is because you have that hole in your lining, which after this I'm going to slip stitch it up. Leave about 6 inches, okay? It doesn't say in the instructions how big you should leave that hole, and I left mine at about 5, and I think if I had gone another inch, it would have been a lot easier to pull that jacket through. So I do recommend a 6-inch hole. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you like my jacket. I'm going to film a couple more videos in this outfit, so you'll probably be seeing this jacket again. But I just wanted to thank you to all my subscribers and anybody watching this video. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Give this a thumbs up. Leave me a comment, and I just want to hear from you. But everybody, thank you again. I will see you soon. Okay, so we are ready to complete step 18, which is the second to last step, and that is finishing off the sleeve lining to the cuff. And you can see when it's done, it's nice and clean. There's no seams or anything showing. So we're going to be working with that hole that's left in the lining. Stitching this close will be the last thing that we do, but to finish this sleeve, what you first need to do is put your arm into the sleeve that you're working with, just to make sure that everything is nice and smooth, nothing's twisted, the lining's not twisted, it's where it should be. And this one feels about right. What we need to do is to basically pin. So we have this seam, and then we have this seam, so these go together. And we're doing that so that when we pull the arm through the hole, it doesn't get like twisted, and we know what belongs with what. Once we have done that, you're going to reach in through that hole inside the lining, and you're going to pull the sleeve through the hole. Okay, so you're going to have lining and the main fabric sleeve. And you're going to see your clip here. All right, there's our clip. There's our cuff. The thing is that we need to pin right sides together. So this is the part that actually kind of messed me up, and I had to redo it. This seam is actually not going to go with the one we pinned it on. I know that seems counterintuitive, but if you do it like I did the first time, that's actually going to be twisted, and it's going to be weird when you try to put your arm in. The reason being is because we have to flip this to meet the right side of the sleeve. So if we flip this around and pinned it here, it would actually become twisted. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what happened. So what we're going to do, let's find this. So this is going to go there, but it's going to be right sides together. So you take that, you're going to put your cuff, push it down in, okay, because inside here is the right side of the fabric. This now needs to go to the seam across from the one we actually pinned. And you're going to flip it around so that it's right sides together. See that? Right side, this is the right side. You're going to match this seam up with this seam here. Now you can either pin or you can clip, whatever you want. And now you'll go to the other seam directly across. Now this is a little tricky, just maneuvering all this around, but just remember you're working right sides together. And if you just keep reminding yourself of that and positioning the fabric accordingly, it will be okay. It doesn't mean that it is not challenging or frustrating at times, but it will work. And what you're going to do is then just go around and pin it, you know, raw edge to raw edge, making sure that that cuff is tucked inside. You don't want it popping back up, otherwise you will sew it incorrectly. And so you match the seams, then you want to match the darts, not the darts, the notches. As you go around, there's a notch here, so you're going to match your lining. Where is it? I can't really see it so well on my little lining fabric, but it's there. A very slight notch. So just go ahead and pin around or clip, whatever you're doing. I'm going to do that all around and match my notch, which is here. So now that you've pinned all the way around, right side to right side, it kind of looks like this. Here is my lining. Here is my main fabric. And now we get to do the super fun part, and that's sew all the way around using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. We're not using 5/8, it's a 1/2 inch. So let's go to the sewing machine and do this. Now what we need to do is make sure that we have just these, I don't know, edges. They're lined up and there's nothing coming up like the cuff or anything else. Everything's smooth. Hopefully that makes sense. And as you can see, I removed my table. I think having the free arm, I guess, is easier, and I'm going to take one of these clips out, making sure that everything's still lining up, and I'm going to go and put it up to a 1/2 inch, lower my my needle, sorry, and just kind of messing with the fabric to make sure everything is nice and smooth and there's nothing coming up that shouldn't, because that's the hard part and that's what takes the most time. And just go slow, because if you mess up, it's not fun. So back stitch, and you're just kind of keep maneuvering the edges around so that they can be sewn, making sure that the raw edges match and that everything else is free and is out of the way. That's the hardest part. It's just not very fun. There's strings everywhere. And some of the sleeve is slightly gathered, so when you keep that in mind, just kind of not smooth out, but kind of pull the gathers so that they are nice and kind of even. My lining was kind of slipping, so I had to go in and adjust it. So just make sure that all the edges are lining up and nothing's slipping down in there. Okay. And we are done. Whoa. Okay, so what you'll do, of course, is pull your sleeve out. You can just go into the armhole and do that. And you'll see now that we have achieved what we set out to do.